Saturday to all of you listening out there, wherever you're listening and however you're listening. We appreciate you, whether it's 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, the KSL News Radio app, KSL Sports app. So many different ways to consume Cougar Sports Saturday, and also podcasts too. Appreciate you if you're listening on demand to the show today. BYU football, we talked about the assistant coaches, tight end Kevin M. Gilbride, the new tight ends coach for BYU, but there was also some kind of under-the-radar strength and conditioning hires for BYU as well, and they're noteworthy because at this time of the year, phase one of a college football offseason, winter conditioning is
huge.
It's massive. It sets the tone for the entire year.
Yeah, it was nice to see that kind of finalized and figured out, because last year at this time, it was like we were trying to figure out exactly what was happening in that group. Kalani had moved on from Nua Tafisi. Now you got, well, go ahead, Mitch. What's the group?
So now, in just the timeline there, Nua Tafisi was dismissed, and then they also let go of another assistant. And then Andy Reid's son last spring, he moved on to join the Chiefs. Good move there. Get back there in the NFL. And then BYU didn't have their strength and conditioning coach in place until Memorial Day. And so this whole winter conditioning bit, this is new for Ryan Phillips, who's the head strength and conditioning coach. They've also got Colby Clausen, Dr. Skylar Main, kind of more of the mental sports scientists. Kalani always refers to them in media availabilities. You know, we lean on our sports scientists. It's those guys.
Yep.
Ryan Phillips is the strength and conditioning director. He came in from Purdue, Indiana, a lot of Big Ten roots, kind of like that approach, Power 5 background. And then now he's got assistants underneath him. Last year he had a guy by Kalani Simoena, and then Dalton Elliott. Dalton Elliott was actually dismissed the last week of the regular season, and then Simoena was not renewed on the staff. So they bring in Tanner Marr, who was also part of the staff last year. He's the associate director of strength and conditioning. Zach Shaw, an assistant strength and conditioning coach. Tim Ismail from Army West Point. And then for you diehard recruiting fans out there, this just warms my heart. Christian Tupou, a heralded recruit in the 2007 class. So I was like, he's got to go to BYU. This makes so much sense. You got to go to BYU. He goes to USC during their heyday, and I get it. It was USC when their glory years.
Yep.
He's now a strength and conditioning coach for the Cougars as well. So that's your five-man strength and conditioning staff. And it seemed like there's been some rave reviews on social media for the people that know the quirks, the nuances of strength and conditioning. So we'll see how it goes. I thought, ultimately it's about keeping guys available. I think that's where these guys are determined by their success, and they've got the challenge in front of them to do that.
My biggest takeaway from all of that, you got Ryan Phillips back. He came in late, but he's still there. He's running the show. But the biggest takeaway from that is an expanded strength and conditioning staff. This is when you talk about more resources, more analysts. This is the type of stuff we're talking about. And it's nice to see a little investment there because, look, we watch College Game Day. We watch Big Noon, whatever it's called on Fox. Big Noon, is that just what it's called?
Big Noon, yep.
And you see some of the behind-the-scenes videos of Georgia and Clemson and Texas. Enormous strength and conditioning staffs, right? Yep. Keeping guys healthy, keeping them on the field. It's nice to see more resources put into this part of the football program.
It's huge. And, it's also noteworthy, too. Tupou, he comes from Oregon. And, Tim Ismail, he was with an FBS staff at Army West Point. Zach Shaw, he was a head strength coach at a high school program. He was also got a background with D3. But these are guys that were in the profession last year, and they're climbing. That's what you always want.
Yep.
You don't want guys that they got stagnant, they were unemployed last year, and now they're back in the game. No, you want climbers, I think. I think BYU far too often has not hired enough people that are rising. I want kind of the next wave of talent, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's coaching. That I think there's some value to that. But, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know what these guys need to do as far as the style. I know that the new Tafisi approach was controversial. I mean, the Olympic deadlifts, even former players, they've made some, tongue-in-cheek jokes about all the squats that they had to do. And, it was all, universally across the board, whether you're a quarterback or you're a defensive lineman, you're all pretty much doing the same things. I don't know, that just sounds saying that out loud, it sounds like, what are we doing here? Like, you got to individualize it to the certain positions because each position group has its own kind of body types and own unique ways of kind of going about things and contributing on the football field.
Did you watch the Netflix show Quarterback with Pat Mahomes, Kirk Cousins?
I've only watched one episode. I need to
You're
dive
missing
into it
out.
more.
It's fantastic. But the reason I bring it up is it was eye-opening to see those guys train and recover during the week. And, like, when you talk about deadlifts and squats, nowhere to be found. When Mahomes was working out and lifting, it was a speed work, agility work. Even Christian McCaffrey, who's put some of his workouts on YouTube, and you can find him in different places, he's not doing Olympic deadlifts. He's not trying to get shredded, per se. There is a component of being strong. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you can just abandon weightlifting. But, man, football, its moves are specific to every position, which you just mentioned. And the pros, Mahomes, Cousins, like those guys, they don't do that stuff very much, especially during the season. So it's we'll have to see with this approach. But the clips that we've seen on social media, it looks a lot more like what you would expect and not so much okay, let's load up the plates. Let's get it's max day. Let's go for 600. Rah, rah. Like, that just doesn't translate to football health and success.
I think you can reasonably expect kind of a 180 from what it previously was with Tafisi. Also, I think Colby Clausen, Dr. Skylar Main, they're heavily involved with this staff and piecing this group together. Colby Clausen's kind of if you want to talk about the head man of all of this world, he's kind of the guy. And he was also announced this week as the assistant AD of football health and performance. Man, that's a beautiful title on LinkedIn. Congrats to you, Dr. Colby Clausen, also Doc Skylar Main. Ryan Phillips mentioned his strength and conditioning coach. Brett Mortensen, he's been around the football program for a while. He's a football athletic training director. Dan Wilcox, he's in charge of nutrition. He's been on the staff for a few years now in this push to get ready for the Big 12. Braden Brown, former offensive lineman, he's in charge of the mental health side. And then Terrence Motley, rehabilitation director, he was part of the staff as well. So everyone's kind of getting some new titles. BYU's getting ready for year 2 in the Big 12. And it's an important one because I think that there was a lot of education, a lot of learning from what they experienced in year 1. And I think that, they're kind of now understanding, okay, this is what we got to do a lot different because I know it sounds so far away, but January is a real tone setter in that football calendar getting ready for an upcoming season.
Taking a break, hour 1 in the books. We'll get back to some hoops, and we'll touch on a very exciting night and weekend of NFL football as well with some local BYU ties. Stay with us. It's Cougar Sports Saturday, powered by KSLSports.com.